The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful gentleman who is on the other side of the pond. We had him back around sometime late last year talking about rational living. He's lived in Germany, Italy, France, Spain, and the Netherlands. He's been interested in history and also has an interest in personal development and many, many more. He's got author of 10 books about rational living. You can find those on Amazon as well, too, which is the Rationality is the Way to Happiness, Philosophy of Builders, and 10 Principles of Rational Living. And we can use rational living right now. He's got a new book called Assymetry. And live, ladies and gentlemen, once again from the other side of the pond, we welcome back author John Vespasian. John, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening from here. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Wow. Okay. You must have come in pretty good there. You're so excited. So I could tell. And you got your new book called Assymetry as well, too. That's Shortcut to Success When Success Seems Impossible. And tell us, before you tell us more about the book, quickly tell us how you got started.
Well, I got started many years ago. That's 11 years ago. I've been writing since then one book per year. And what I'm trying to do is to put my experience, my knowledge, my passion for history into practical books that anybody can use. It's very unfortunate that when people learn or study history at school, most people become very disappointed, very angry that they feel they are wasting their time by learning history. It's very unfortunate. I can understand why, because most of the history we learn at school is very irrelevant, it's boring, is disorganized. So what I try to do in my books is to learn from practical stories, from histories, from people who have become very successful or very unsuccessful, and try to draw from their lives principles, stories, advice that we can use today in the 21st century. And this is the purpose of my work, the purpose of my books.
Okay. And also, what was that one moment that precisely influenced you into what you're doing?
The one moment came 11 years ago where I was a voracious reader. I used to read, as I still do, history, marketing, personal finance, personal development. And I remember one day, I remember this distinctly. I went to the bookshop I usually go, and I tried for an hour to find something interesting, and I couldn't find anything. I said to myself, they're not the kind of books I want to read. I want to read practical, factual books that give practical advice that anybody can implement. So I started to write the kind of books I could not find. And I remember the moment, and this is what got me started.
You also had 10 books on rational living. And before we get into some of those books, what exactly is rational living to you?
Yeah, it's I call it rational living. It's a practical philosophy. What I try to do is to extract from history principles that anybody can put into practice by using common sense, by using their reason, their motivation. And I try to stay away from emotional advice, positive thinking, which today seems to be the prevalent philosophy in many areas. I try to stay away from that because for most people, it demands a level of energy that they don't have. I don't have it myself. I am relatively optimistic most of the time, but I'm not a super positive person by character. I'm not a super extrovert. I find this kind of philosophy, this emotional, subjective philosophy, very difficult to sustain. So I try to stay away from it. I try to provide in my books the kind of advice, the kind of principles that you can implement without having to be super, super positive.
And of course, you can also find those books on Amazon as well, too. And we'll talk about your new book, Assymetry, as well. But first, to listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with author John Vespasian on Rational Living here on the Mike Wagner Show. And he's got his 11th book right now, which I'm correct. It's called Assymetry. And tell us more about the book and what inspired you to write Assymetry.
Yeah, asymmetry reflects an everyday occurrence that you find in every area of your life when you actually look at the facts. We have, as human beings, the tendency to find patterns in reality. You can define intelligence as the ability to find patterns. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we tend to invent linear patterns because they look so tidy, they look so self-evident. Most of the market, most of reality, most of human behavior is not linear, it is asymmetrical. What I've done in the book is to show dozens of examples to try to make the reader alert to this situation. Let me just give you an example from right now, because we are now in the middle of these coronavirus stories. You see in many areas the economy collapsing and people very angry. You see this social revolt, and at the same time, you see the stock market rising. And this is the typical asymmetric behavior you see every day. If you just open your eyes, you will see it. And people become completely astonished and say, how is it possible? The economy is collapsing. People are in the street. They're burning buildings. They're burning cars. And the stock market is rising. And this happens all the time. And there is always an explanation. There is always a logical explanation behind. In this particular case, you have to realize that we have these disruptions that are going on now for almost 3 months, but the whole production infrastructure is intact. Yes, there have been a few buildings, a few disruptions, but most companies are completely intact. The productive capacity is there, and they're just waiting to come back online and to produce cars, to produce everything that is produced. And in the meantime, a lot of the competition has been destroyed because very unfortunately, but this lockdown has destroyed a lot of small companies, a lot of restaurants, a lot of small companies, family operations. So for the companies quoted in the stock market, which are most of them large companies, when they come back, they will have fewer competition. As soon as they open and they start working 100%, they will increase their market share. And this is the reason why the stock market, I think, one of the reasons why the stock market is going up. In these times where other people are really finding themselves bankrupt, this asymmetric situation seems very unfair. And this is something that I underline in the book, that life is not fair. Asymmetry is a fact. Not only in finance, not only in business, but in every area of life, you will find asymmetric situations. It's a fact of life. You cannot deny. You might find it unfair. I think in this case, we are seeing that, there are a lot of unfair situations. People who should do well are not doing well, but that's life. And what I try to do in the book is to open your eyes as a reader, to open your eyes to these asymmetric opportunities that they come up every day. It's just that we have the difficulty to see them because our mentality, our thinking is too linear. It is too straightforward. If you open your eyes to these opportunities, to these asymmetric situations, you can do very, very well.
Mm-hmm. And how does one person actually get to open your eyes about the situation using asymmetry? It's like, what is the actual process? Because it's natural to say, like with the COVID virus, the pandemic, and also rioting, looting in the streets, and of course the economy going sour in most countries, including America. How does one person train to become asymmetrical when it comes to with a rational situation, as you explained?
Yeah, in the book I present different techniques based on history, based on specific cases. Let me give you an example. One of the best ways to find asymmetric situations is to take into account what in economics they call opportunity cost. Let me just explain this in a second. It's not complicated, but it's a concept that many people don't know. When you make a decision, and you want to say, I want to start a business, I want to get married, I want to study, people usually calculate how much it costs and say, okay, I'm going to go to university. This is going to cost $30,000. I have to blah, blah, blah. And then they make a calculation. But unless you have the habit of looking at the asymmetric aspects, you will not see what you are missing. You will not see what they call opportunity cost, which is what you could have done with the money, or what you could have done with your time at that moment. Today, when we have this lockdown situation, and you have many people who are not able to work, either because they cannot get to their workplace or because their company has closed temporarily, and they are completely angry, they are completely disoriented. If you look at the situation from an asymmetric point of view, you have to see the opportunity cost. And let me just give you an example. One of my friends for years has been complaining that he wants to learn Spanish and he doesn't have the time because he's working 10 hours a day. And now he's not able to work. During already 3 months, he has been barely able to do anything because his job involves a lot of traveling. So he has found the perfect situation to do what he wanted to do for years, which is to learn the second language. And instead of wasting his time with lamentation, saying, oh my God, this is terrible, I cannot work, he's using the time very productively, because the opportunity cost of learning Spanish used to be very high because he was working full time, 10 hours a day. He was traveling. He was very tired. He could not really learn anything. Now he has 3 months of forced holiday. So he can use the time to do what he always wanted to do. And when he goes back to work, and I think will be very soon, he will have the possibility. He will not speak Spanish perfectly in 3 months, but he will already have a good knowledge that he can expand while he's traveling. He can listen to tapes, he can listen to CDs, he can listen to courses, and he will be able to build on the knowledge. And eventually he will speak a second language because he has been able to see the asymmetric opportunity. Instead, you will see millions of people in the same situation. Instead of using the opportunity, they just get angry. They waste their time watching movies on Netflix instead of learning anything. And this is the kind of mentality I want readers to develop. Mm-hmm. When you're facing problems, when you're facing disruptions, when you're facing adversity, try to adopt an asymmetric mentality, because you will see opportunities, you will see possibilities to do some things that otherwise you will get depressed. Mm-hmm. And this is not the way to do.
Right. And of course, you also mentioned Philip Neri, Mozart, Count of St. Germain, Rembrandt, Dodens, and also Hannibal. Also, an example in the book. Maybe you can just tell us about how asymmetry applies to those people.
Yeah, these are different examples from different centuries and different professions. How people have used asymmetry to build a very successful career. Just to mention, for instance, Philip Neri, who started a religious movement with zero money, almost from scratch. This was a guy, he's a very famous saint from the 16th century from Italy. In Italy, he's really very well known. He was trying to start a religious movement almost for 20 years. He tried everything. He started a charity and he failed. He started an association to take care of sick people, and it also failed. And eventually, after he tried everything, he changed his approach. He adopted an asymmetric approach and said, what can I do that nobody else is doing? What can I do to use resources that nobody else is using? By changing his mentality, changing his approach, because he was using a symmetric direct approach, and he was failing because there was too much competition. There were too many people starting with religious movements. He could not really get off the ground. And what he did was to use resources that nobody else was using. And he observed when he was in Rome, he was living in Italy, in Rome, that nobody was going to church during the week. Nobody was using the churches on Saturday morning. They were completely empty. He thought, maybe I could do something with that. So he started a movement, a religious movement, which is called a local pilgrimage. And he organized either on Saturdays where nobody was going to church, or during the week in the evening, he would preach sermons every day on a different church. He was like an itinerant preacher in Rome. People found it remarkable, and they started to follow him. It's like today with social media, with Facebook and with Twitter. He did the same in the 16th century. He created a movement just by offering people what nobody else was offering. He got the churches for free because they were empty, and they let him organize these sermons in the evening. On Saturdays, he did something that nobody else was doing. He organized a pilgrimage, and he put together groups of people, and he walked with them from church to church on Saturday morning, and he made a very short sermon on every church. So the whole thing was about 3 hours. They walk in groups of 50 people, and it was so unusual that people love it. And they came to Rome just to hear this guy talk because it was so unusual. So the typical asymmetric approach will allow you to use resources that nobody else is using. And within a few years, Philip Neri created a huge religious movement that is still present today. It's called the Oratorians. And he became a very famous and very influential in the Catholic Church. So this is just an example from the book to give you an idea of what you can do. Of course, it's not self-evident to put into practice these examples today in the 21st century, but the theory is very solid. You will find in the book also many examples of people in business, in medicine, using asymmetric strategies are very, very powerful because if you try to compete face-to-face, if you try to compete by doing what everybody else is doing, it's very hard. You will have to work 20 hours a day, and you will not make it because this kind of direct competition is very difficult to win. It's much better to use an asymmetric strategy.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the book Assymetry you can find on Amazon. And what's coming up for 2020 for John Vespasian? You'll find out in just a minute. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@SonicWebStudios.com. Mention Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. With our author, John Vespasian, the 10 books on rational living, and talking about his new book, Asymmetry, here on the Mike Wagner Show. We just talked about the book and where you can purchase. And what do you got coming up for 2020 and beyond? What can we expect from you beyond 2020 and 2021, John?
Well, I keep writing books. I'm writing the next one for next year will become in 2021. And what I try to do in each book is to touch a different aspect of rationality. In this case, asymmetry. What I really present to readers is a different mentality, a different logic to use in their lives. And let me just give you another example, because I find the logic difficult to transmit because people find it so unusual. And when something happens to them, the logic, the reaction is usually linear. They say, okay, I have this headache, and what do I take against this headache? And the logic of asymmetry is that most of the time, the problem that you perceive, which might be a headache, might be unemployment, might be a financial problem, you have to look behind to see what is the real reason, which most of the time is going to be asymmetric. In the book, I devote a substantial part of it to medical history to explain how our current approach, which is completely symmetric, and then you have a headache and you go to the doctor and he gives you some pills for the headache. This is not the way it was always in history. When you look at the great herbalists from the 16th, 17th centuries, they had an asymmetric approach. And when people went to them with a problem, they tried to look at the reasons behind and they tried to find an asymmetric solution to say, wait, you have a headache, but what is the real problem? Mm-hmm. This is why when you go to many of these alternative physicians, they would look at the whole picture. They would look at how you're doing. Are you sleeping well? Do you have a good nutrition? Do you have too much stress? To try to address the real problem, which is rarely symmetrical. The reason for the headache most of the time is not in the head. It is somewhere else. It's a question of whatever it is, what is insomnia, what is bad nutrition, stress, whatever. And it's very, very important when you have problems in any area to really look behind very hard, to ask questions, and to try to identify the real reason. Because a very simple symmetric approach can fool yourself. You can fool yourself into doing the wrong thing. Just because it looks logical. But life is not linear. Life is rarely symmetric. If you want to find a job, you can send a million resumes, but if you are in the wrong market, it's not going to work. You might have to ask yourself, these are my skills. Where do I find opportunities that are not symmetric? Where do I find opportunities that are similar? Where do I find opportunities in different markets? So the book really underlines how to use this mentality in all areas of your life. I give dozens and dozens of examples, but I have to tell you, it is not easy to learn because it's completely counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm. And that's amazing, too. Once again, John Vespasian, author of Asymmetry, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects, what's your website, how do people contact you, and where can people purchase Asymmetry and other books?
Yeah, I'm very, very easy to find. If you just type John Vespasian on Google, you will find my books in 1 second. They're available in Amazon and other outlets. There is a blog with hundreds of free articles. There is a free newsletter. Very easy to find. You just type John Vespasian on the internet. You will find everything in 1 second. Very easy.
Sounds good, and it's quite asymmetrical as well, too. I'll get that right one day. John Vespasian, author of 10 books, including Asymmetry. A big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date. Looking forward to have back on 2020 and beyond. You've been fantastic.
Many thanks, Mike.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, Custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.